EU leaders express their gravest concern about the escalating humanitarian crisis in Gaza as they meet for a summit in the Belgian capital. Also on the agenda for the European Union's member states are migration and the EU budget. But the main focus is on the Middle East as Israel prepares a ground invasion of Gaza. EU leaders will call for the establishment of humanitarian corridors and pauses to get urgently needed aid into Gaza. The bloc will also work closely with partners in the region to protect civilians. Now, according to the draft conclusions, heads of state will urge Hamas to immediately release all hostages without any preconditions. Now, they warn regional actors against fueling an escalation of violence as well. With renewed attention on the Middle East, the EU meeting also aims to dispel any doubt that support for Ukraine has been placed on the back burner. To signal that Kyiv remains very high on the bloc's agenda, a total of 14 paragraphs have been devoted to Ukraine in the draft conclusion. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will also join the summit through a video link. Julia Chapman joins us live now from Brussels for more on this story. Julia, the EU members have been divided on how to respond to the Israel-Hamas war. What's the reason for the confused messaging that we're seeing? And could we actually see them come to some kind of a consensus during this summit?
Well, European Union members are coming at this conflict with different perspectives. There are countries like Spain that are actively calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, while other countries like Germany and the Czech Republic are more reticent to be seen to be undermining what they say is their support for Israel in its effort to defend itself. So there has certainly been a lot of wrangling over the language involved in this draft text, which, as you say, we now understand has come to some wording that refers to humanitarian corridors and pauses. It also emphasizes a need for humanitarian aid to reach people in Gaza, expressing concern about the deteriorating humanitarian situation there. But as we've heard from Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban a little while ago, opinions are divided when it comes to this issue, and there will be extensive discussions trying to get EU members on the same page after a pretty messy response in the initial days after the Hamas attack against Israeli civilians, and a sense among some people that there hasn't been enough of a focus on the humanitarian situation in Gaza.
Julia, global focus has shifted to the conflict in the Middle East from the war in Ukraine somewhat. EU leaders insist that they can handle support for both at the same time. How is the bloc actually ensuring that it's still able to support Kyiv?
Well, a good chunk of today's discussions will indeed be focused on Ukraine, member states reiterating their continued commitment to back Kyiv, and that will become apparent in the form of a budget top-up that is being discussed among EU members. It's not likely to be approved in the next couple of days. That's something for towards the end of the year. But around half of that amount, 50 billion euros, is dedicated to aid for Ukraine over the next 4 years. So it's a medium-term outlook suggesting that there will be a continued commitment. But of course, we are seeing some more doubt creeping in as there are distractions with the situation between Israel and Hamas. Of course, we've seen Prime Minister Viktor Orban shaking hands with Russian President Vladimir Putin recently, which he was criticized for earlier. And he said today that he defended that and was proud to be engaging with Russia still. But he has now more company. We are hearing today from Slovakian media that the new prime minister is committing to his manifesto pledge to stop providing aid from Slovakia to Ukraine. Now, that's bilateral aid, but it will certainly complicate situations here as the EU leaders get together and discuss that as well.
Julia, thank you for that update. Julia Chapman there, live for us in Brussels.